自分を世界さえも変えてしまえそうな
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I will be discussing Code Geass, specifically one of my favorite anime characters of all time, Lelouch Vi Britannia, 17th heir to the throne of Britannia. So Lelouch is a fascinating character for many reasons. He has so much depth, so much nuance to his character, which makes him a very compelling figure, and given his anti-heroic nature, he's always piqued my interest. In order to break down Lelouch, though, as a character, we first must understand what an anti-hero actually is. So I've looked up a few definitions about this, and the most consistent one I can find is that an anti-hero is defined as a protagonist of a drama or narrative who is notably lacking in heroic qualities. So with Lelouch, how we break this down, right, is we look at who he actually is. What are his goals? What are his beliefs? And in doing so, we find out that Lelouch and his purpose are selfless, and they are so selfless, in fact, that it makes him that heroic figure that people strive to want to become and want to follow. However, it's also contrasted by his somewhat villainous nature at times, in service of those beliefs, in service of that selfless action. So what I mean by that, right, is obviously if you watch Code Geass, you know that Lelouch's fundamental character trait is that he is doing everything in service of his sister, Nonali. Ever since the day his mother was murdered, which left his sister crippled, Lelouch had a burning desire to not only avenge his mother's death, but to create a better world for his sister Nonali. And in order to achieve that goal, he would use the power of Geass to bend people to his will, and he never had qualms about sacrificing some of his comrades to achieve that goal. A perfect example of this is when he sacrifices General Katase of the Japan Liberation Front during their escape from Port Yokosuka. Now, obviously, Lelouch does this in this episode in order to try to defeat Cornelia in that decisive battle, and this action that he takes in this battle is a perfect highlight of Lelouch's hunger for victory no matter the cost, which admittedly is not a heroic thing to do, right? The heroic thing to do is to be very chivalrous, right? To be very unwavering in your pursuit of purity. But Lelouch doesn't have that purity. However, when we think about why he's doing all of this, right? It's because of his sister. It's to protect her. It's to create a better world for her. It's to avenge his mother's death. And an extension, right, along the way, he grows very fond of other characters, right, like Colin. So he is doing everything in this world selflessly. And that itself is heroic. That is noble. In order to sacrifice your humanity and in order to sacrifice your own morality in order to achieve great things for other people, that is something to be admired, and that is why he is such a polarizing figure. Now, another more extreme example of his desire for victory and the depths he would go to for that is, if you remember in Season 2, his brother Rollo, his fake brother, right, who is the one who replaces Nonali. You could tell that Lelouch just absolutely manipulates this kid emotionally. And that is something that a lot of people would see as deplorable, right? But again, none of this is for himself. None of his actions are for a personal gain. If he wanted to just become like the emperor, or if he just wanted to gain more power, and that was his reason for doing all the bad things he does, then yeah, he's just a straight up villain. But that is not the case here. He is willing to sacrifice his own legacy, his own morality, for the sake of the world. And that all culminates at the end of the show, as everyone who's watched it remembers, when he becomes the villain of the entire world in order to create a better place for his friends and for his sister. And that was the whole premise and the whole aspect of Lelouch's character. Whereas you see him do some of these awful things, but then you see him also do so many acts of pure nobility in terms of protecting the ones he loves and creating a better future for them. And that is why he is such a polarizing figure and, in my opinion, the greatest anti-hero in anime history, because he is able to forsake his own morality, forsake his own sense of what's right and wrong, to make himself the evil villain of the entire world. That's not something that's easy to do. And that's not something that someone who is very selfish would do. It takes someone who is ultimately completely selfless in order to achieve that. And that's not something many people would want to cross, is to make themselves the villain, make themselves hated by the entire world just so others may live in peace. And Lelouch did that, and that culminated with him becoming the villain to be struck down by Suzaku in order for the world to unite against him. And he ultimately achieved his goals, and all of his friends were able to live peacefully and to create a better world. He did that. And now his sister and everyone else could live in peace. The Britannians, became an empire that was not full of deception and hatred and bigotry, and they became a peaceful nation that worked hand in hand with the newly liberated Japanese people. And that is the beautiful thing about his character, is that he achieved everything he needed to, and yes, it caused a lot of bloodshed along the way, and that's something that his friend Suzaku always opposed. The famous quote from Suzaku, right, of results gained by contemptible means are worthless. But what Suzaku failed to realize was that everything Lelouch did was in service of other people. It was in service of his sister. It was in service of his mother, of his friends in the school, right? The student council, Colin. He was doing it for the sake of everyone else, not himself. And we talked a lot about his selflessness, right? However, what also needs to be stated is his compassion, right? You could see when his friends are in danger, he genuinely feels terrified for them. He's afraid of losing them. Remember the Battle of the Tokyo Settlement? Lelouch made sure that no one got hurt at his school. He expressly stated it to the Black Knights. He was very staunch in his defense of his friends because he cares about them. He wants them to live. He wants them to prosper. That doesn't sound like a man who's a villain, right? So this is all to just show you that Lelouch is just such a powerful character because, yes, he will go to deplorable means. He will sacrifice to some people. He will do acts of manipulation to bring people to his will. However, his compassion for his friends and his sister, the belief in avenging his mother, those are all acts of nobility. Those are all acts of heroism, in my opinion. So when you think about that, it just goes to show you how much of a flawed but beautiful character Lelouch is. And that's why you could root for him, because when that blade pierces his heart, you don't revel in that. You're saddened by his demise. It leaves you wanting more of him because you know what he went through in order to protect everything he loved, to create a better world. And the real ones know what he was doing, right? So his friends, Suzaku, his sister, Colin, the student council, all of them, they know the truth. They know what he sacrificed, and that's the beauty of it. However, the rest of the world will not know. They will remember Lelouch as the villain that tried to destroy the world and conquer it. But we all know that wasn't actually the case. It was all just to get people to unite against him in order for the greater good and to create peace in the world. And that is why that ending is so beautiful and so profound, is because it's such a mix of emotions. You have the beauty and the celebration of having his friends and his sister being able to finally live the lives that Lelouch wanted for them. But it's also super sad because Lelouch dies, and he dies as a tragic figure who was ultimately the hero. But in the end, since he did so many negative things and so many deplorable acts, that's why he's actually an anti-hero, because he wasn't super noble and super chivalrous and just pure good. However, his selflessness and his compassion for the ones he loves and his ability to forsake himself and his own morality is what will make him such a triumphant and amazing character. So anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm still pretty new to this YouTube thing, so it's a learning process, but I hope you like what I had to say, and if you enjoyed it, leave a like, a comment, a sub, discuss what you thought of this, discuss what you thought of, the show, Lelouch, whatever you want. But yeah, so I'll see you guys later, and hope you have a good one. Peace.